want to give you a chance to hear from someone who's on the front lines or has been on the front lines of making life easier for kids. Our keynote speaker today, who stepped up and made life a little bit easier and safer for three cousins. I don't even know some of my cousins, but this is above and beyond. So, Micki Benson, if you'd join me up here and tell us about life for a volunteer and a savior. Micki Benson.
Thank you. Wow, there are a lot of people here today. Glad to see that. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Micki Benson. I am a parent, a foster parent, and as of last Friday, April 5th, an adoptive parent. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry. My three cousins are Alyssa, Ashlyn, and Christopher. They're here with us today. I am so happy to see such a large audience of CASA supporters here this morning. Many of you know how important that CASA is, but I'd like to share our story with you so you understand what CASA has done for my family and why it's so very important to the kids that are in the foster care system. I didn't exactly expect to be a mom again to three school-age children at this point in my life. I have two grown daughters and two grandsons that keep me pretty busy. But when I became aware of the situation that my little cousins were in, I had to do something. Alyssa, Ashlyn, and Christopher were my cousin Jenny's youngest children out of 5 total. I had seen them a few times at family gatherings when they were younger, but Jenny and the kids had been increasingly isolated from our family over the years. Christopher's father, Chris, the girl's stepfather, I had only met once or twice. About 2 years ago, Ashlyn friend requested me on Facebook. Her grandma Joanne had told her that I was okay to chat with, that we were cousins. Soon after, the girl's oldest sister came for a visit from Iowa for Christmas, and she asked me to check on the kids. She was worried about them, and Jenny didn't allow her to see them herself, so I promised her I would try. The timing was on my side because Alyssa at 14 had just gotten a job for the summer at Worlds of Fun, and Chris and Jenny no longer had a built-in babysitter. It was during that, eventually Jenny would leave the kids with me longer and longer periods for days and then eventually weeks at a time. And it was then that I began to suspect that something was seriously wrong. The first thing I noticed was their appearance. The children were underweight, and Ashlyn was covered in bug bites. I immediately bought her some Benadryl and some hydrocortisone. She had scratched herself so badly that she had scabs and scars all down her arms. It ended up being scabies, which she had had for 3 years untreated. They all had head lice, and when I told their parents, they made the girls treat their hair with lamp oil and shaved Christopher's head rather than take them to the doctor or buy lice treatment. Christopher's clothes were torn and dirty, and he didn't have proper shoes. He wore Batman house shoes that barely had soles left. The younger two were so starved for attention that they talked my ears off. But neither of them understood the seriousness of the things that they were telling me. To them, it was normal everyday life, but to me, the stories were horrific and very shocking. A couple of examples were that in the summer, their parents locked them out of the house all day, no access to food, water, or a restroom. When they were allowed inside, they were often confined to their one shared bedroom with no air conditioning. They did not have central heat either. They used kerosene heat in the winter. The kids had to stay in their room and were not allowed downstairs from their 7 p.m. bedtime to eat, drink, or use the restroom until as late as 11 or 12 the next day on the weekends. Many times, in desperation, they would crawl out the second-story window onto the roof to relieve themselves. The family received food stamps, but the parents kept food locked in their rooms and also punished the kids sometimes by withholding food. Their parents would leave them at home for days at a time with only cold canned goods and no way to heat them or to make other food for themselves. One time when their parents were gone, a concerned cousin, Brenda, gave them groceries, and when their stepfather came back, he took all the food from them and said it was for his lunches. They weren't allowed to eat any of it. Their cousin was a neighbor, so she would often give the kids breakfast or hot chocolate in the mornings. Jenny and Chris also made the kids clean the whole house and clean up after the animals, which were mostly kept in kennels. I won't even go into details of how the dogs were treated, but it wasn't pretty. The children's punishments were very extreme. They were made to stand in a corner for hours and sometimes days at a time. They would feel like passing out, get tunnel vision, and not be allowed to eat. During these punishments, they would ask to go to the bathroom just so they could sit down. Christopher's father referred to him as a girl and told him he was stupid and lazy. He referred to Ashlyn as it. Whenever the school called in too many hotlines to report suspected abuse, the parents would move the kids to a different school. And when investigators came to the home to check on the kids, at least 9 times from 2013 to 2016, they interviewed them within earshot of their parents. The kids were afraid to tell the investigators what was happening because they knew as soon as the investigators left, they would get a beating from their parents. In May of 2017, a serious physical incident occurred where their stepdad pulled Ashlyn to the ground by her hair and hit her in the face. I told the children then that this was unacceptable and that we needed to get them out of there. Ashlyn asked her parents at that time if she could come and live with me, and Chris and Jenny refused. In July, I went out of town and the kids went home. Another serious incident happened where the stepdad beat Ashlyn and Christopher with the buckle end of a belt, so hard that the buckle left visible imprints on their skin, on the front and back of the thigh, the buttock, and on Ashlyn's temple. This was punishment for breaking the rules and leaving the house and going to the convenience store while he was at work. When I returned the day after the beating and offered to take the kids, their stepdad wouldn't let me see them. I waited for 2 or 3 days and finally got them back. This time, the kids were with me for 2 weeks. The parents didn't call or text one time to ask if the kids were okay. I swore to myself then that the kids would never go back and be hurt like that ever again. We were at Oceans of Fun for Christopher's birthday when I got the call from Jenny that she needed the kids to come home and be present for a food benefit verification because they had been convicted of welfare fraud before. I offered right then to take the children permanently. No hotline, no police involvement. They could just sign papers and let the kids stay at my house and go to school. Instead, Jenny went to the police department first and then to my house, causing a scene, accusing me of kidnapping and demanding to have the kids back. As a former police officer myself, I knew what I had to do. I took the kids straight to the police department from Oceans of Fun. The police officer there listened to my story and saw the pictures of the kids' injuries from the belt buckle. He then gave me the hotline information and told me then, I won't stop you from taking them out of this police department. I was on the phone for what seemed like hours with the hotline, with officers calling and threatening to arrest me. When we got home, our block was lit up. There were so many cop cars, and Jenny was there intoxicated. The police officers interviewed the children separately, and even after 2 weeks with me, their bruises were still visible. He decided that he was leaving the children in my care and was charging the parents with child abuse. One of the officers knew it was Christopher's birthday that day and gave him a patch off his uniform. He got down on his knee at eye level and told Christopher that he was the bravest boy he had ever met. Christopher cheered and ran in circles when he heard he could stay with me. He said it was the best birthday present he could get. So that meant going to court to get the kids permanently. At that first mandatory meeting at CASA, within 72 hours after the kids were allowed to stay with me, the kids were absolutely terrified, and so was I. I was afraid they would be given back to their parents, and I would never be allowed to see them again. This is when we met Amanda Privatera, the kids' CASA caseworker. She sat down with my kids under the stairs at Children's Court, cross-legged, just like them, and bought them a snack. She promised them that she and I were going to protect them and reassured them that they would be okay. At that first meeting, their parents denied everything. They accused the kids of self-inflicted bruises. They denied the abuse. They denied the beatings. They denied withholding food. They minimized and denied their alcohol and drug abuse. Alyssa, with tears rolling down her face, spoke up and looked her stepfather straight in the eye in that meeting and said, "You abused us for years and years, and we're never going back with you." Now we are a family. They are my kids, and I'm their mom. My entire family, my girls, Ashley and Mackenzie, my mom, Dottie, and Aunt Robbie, have all been there supporting us through it all. I was also in foster care during a difficult time in my childhood, in a different school district, away from family and friends. I was safe, but it wasn't the same as family. With that in my past, I couldn't let them go to strangers or to possibly be split up. I told them, "Your parents will never touch you again, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you." Now my kids have been with me nearly 2 years. The girls have each gained 30 to 40 pounds. Ashlyn has grown 6 inches. Christopher has gained confidence in his ability to learn in school. They have friends. They have their own bedroom. They still have some anxiety in situations outside our home. Before they came to live with me, they hadn't been able to do much. So many things that aren't scary to me or you can be very overwhelming and scary to them. They were not allowed to make choices or allowed to have any opinions. Things as simple as getting a haircut were intimidating. But their confidence has grown in these situations, and they have me and our family there to see them through it. CASA has been a tremendous help in the transition to a normal life with me. Amanda and CASA have been tremendous advocates for us. When I needed help communicating with their social worker, CASA was there. CASA made sure they got therapy with an amazing therapist who eventually said, "Well, I'd love to keep seeing them, but they're doing so well, there really is no need." CASA showed me how to get the kids' clothing allowance from the state. When Christopher had his first birthday party ever at age 11, CASA was there. When a donor made Royals tickets available to CASA, Amanda made sure Christopher got tickets to his first Royals game. CASA was there with school supplies at back to school time. CASA was there with Christmas gifts when I was still adjusting to our new family economics. When Taylor Swift tickets became available for CASA kids, CASA made sure we got them, and Amanda went with us. This was the kids' first concert and something they will never forget. And I'll never forget that CASA can provide all of this life-changing help to my kids and to families like mine because they rely on you. Caring people like you who support CASA with your time, your generous contributions, and by sharing the stories you hear today with your family and friends. I love being a mom, but let me tell you, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, vision appointments, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, caseworkers, angry parents, family court, and the child welfare system in general is not for the faint-hearted. For me, CASA made the difference between succeeding as a foster family or failing. I used to get so angry that first year when all we heard was about the parents' rights and that the goal of the state is reunification with the parents. It was so frustrating to me that even after all they had done, the parents still had all these rights. What about the kids? What right did they have to have a happy childhood, to be loved, or to eat, or to be clean? CASA's mission is to serve the best interests of the children. There is no conflict of interest. They support these kids when they don't have a voice in the system. We would not be here today as a healthy and new family without CASA's support. And as I said earlier, CASA could not do what they do without your support. So thank you. In closing, I just want to show you the day we officially became a family in the eyes of the court.